Hold on, I need the long stove lighter to get this burner going since there's no auto ignition. The instruction says, wait 5 seconds for the gas to stabilize before you ignite the flame. You need a lighter to get a flame going. Hey, I got some of that potato salad from the deli section if you want to put it away. Hey, rinse the rice a couple more times before toasting it. This is what stops it from turning gluey. Add the water, 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water, and a pinch of salt. Put the drained rice straight into the pot. Turn the burner on and let it come to a boil, uncovered. Once it's boiling and the water level has dropped down to the level of the rice, reduce the heat to low and put the lid on. Leave it alone for about 15 minutes until the water is gone. Then turn off the heat, let it rest for a few minutes, and fluff the rice with a fork.
My kitchen window looks right at the road. My kitchen window faces the road. My kitchen windows look out onto the garden. Once the soup boils, lower the heat and let it simmer for 20 minutes. Dice your onions. Heat about 1 to 2 tablespoons of oil in a pot or deep pan over medium heat. Add your drained white rice directly into the pan with the onions. Stir it constantly so it doesn't burn. If the rice is soaking wet when it hits the pan, it will steam instead of toast. Shake off as much water as possible. Pour in your water. As soon as it's boiling, drop the heat to the absolute lowest setting your stove has. Put a tight-fitting lid on the pot. Don't lift the lid just yet. After 15 minutes, turn off the heat entirely, but leave the pot exactly where it is with the lid still on. I need the long stove lighter because the burner won't light on its own. The long stove lighter is in the drawer next to the oven. We keep a long stove lighter near the stove for emergencies. Grab the long stove lighter and see if you can get that burner going. The long stove lighter ran out of fuel, so I had to use matches. The pilot light wouldn't stay on, so I had to get the burner going manually. Can you get this burner going while I prepare the ingredients? It took a few tries to get the burner going. Once you get the burner going, turn the heat down slightly. I couldn't get the burner going because the igniter was broken. This stove doesn't have auto ignition, so you need a lighter. The auto ignition stopped working last week. I miss having auto ignition on my old stove. Without auto ignition, lighting the burner takes an extra step. The repair technician fixed the auto ignition this morning. The instruction says to keep the lid closed during cooking. The instruction says to wait until the oil is hot before adding the onions. The instruction says to stir continuously for 2 minutes. The instruction says to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. The instruction says not to remove the filter while the machine is running. Wait a moment before you ignite the flame. Carefully ignite the flame and keep your hand away from the burner. The gas built up because nobody ignited the flame. Once you ignite the flame, reduce the heat slightly. It took several attempts to ignite the flame. You need dry kindling to get a flame going. He used a lighter to get a flame going in the fireplace. It was windy, so it was difficult to get a flame going. Once you get a flame going, add the larger pieces of wood. She struggled to get a flame going with damp matches. I bought some macaroni salad from the deli section. The deli section has great sandwiches and prepared meals. Let's check the deli section for some sliced turkey. The deli section was crowded during lunch hour. They added a new salad bar near the deli section. Could you put it away in the refrigerator? I'll put it away after dinner. Make sure to put the leftovers away before bed. She forgot to put the milk away. I put everything away once the guests left. Rinsing the rice helps stop it from turning gluey. Too much starch can make the rice turn gluey. I cooked it too long and it turned gluey. This method prevents the pasta from turning gluey. The potatoes turned gluey because they were overmixed. Add 2 cups of water and bring it to a boil. For every cup of rice, use 2 cups of water. The recipe calls for 3 cups of water. Pour the cups of water into the pot slowly. We measured the cups of water before starting. Add a pinch of salt to enhance the flavor. The recipe only needs a pinch of salt. A pinch of salt can make a big difference. Don't forget the pinch of salt at the end. She added a pinch of salt and stirred. Put the vegetables straight into the pot. I put the drained pasta straight into the sauce. He tossed the ingredients straight into the bowl. Put the beans straight into the slow cooker. She poured the mixture straight into the pan. Let the soup come to a boil before reducing the heat. It takes a few minutes for the water to come to a boil. Leave the lid off and let it come to a boil. We waited for the sauce to come to a boil. The stock should come to a boil slowly. The water level dropped overnight. Keep an eye on the water level while it cooks. The water level has dropped below the mark. We noticed the water level dropping steadily. The water level was lower than expected. Reduce the heat to low once the sauce starts bubbling. After boiling, reduce the heat to low and cover it. Reduce the heat to low and let it cook gently. Don't forget to reduce the heat to low. I reduced the heat to low and walked away. Put the lid on and leave it alone. Once everything is inside, put the lid on. Put the lid on before the steam escapes. She put the lid on and lowered the heat. We put the lid on as soon as it started boiling. Let the bread rest before slicing it. The dough needs to rest for 30 minutes. Let the meat rest after cooking. I let it rest for a few minutes before serving. The batter should rest in the refrigerator. Fluff the rice with a fork before serving. I always fluff the rice with a fork to separate the grains. She fluffed the couscous with a fork. Use a fork to fluff the quinoa. The rice looked much better after I fluffed it with a fork. My kitchen window looks right at the parking lot. Their kitchen balcony looks right out at the ocean. The kitchen window in the apartment looks right at the neighboring building. My kitchen window looks right at a busy intersection. The dining room looked right out at the beach. The dining room faces the street. My kitchen window faces a small park. My kitchen island faces the window. The building faces the river. My cupboard is opposite the window. My kitchen counter is under the window. My kitchen counter is below the window. My cupboard is next to the window. My microwave is built into the kitchen unit. The microwave is integrated into the cabinets. Lower the heat and let the sauce simmer. Once it boils, lower the heat immediately. Lower the heat so it doesn't burn. I lowered the heat and continued stirring. The recipe says to lower the heat after 5 minutes. Let the stew simmer for another half an hour. The soup simmered gently on the stove. Simmer the sauce until it thickens. We let it simmer while preparing the side dishes. The vegetables simmered in the broth. Dice the carrots into small pieces. She diced the onions quickly. Dice the tomatoes before adding them. I need to dice the potatoes for the soup. He carefully diced all the vegetables. Heat the oil over medium heat. Cook the onions over low heat until soft. Keep the pan over medium heat. The recipe works best over high heat. We sautéed everything over medium heat. Add the drained rice and stir continuously. The drained beans went straight into the pot. Make sure the rice is fully drained first. I added the drained vegetables to the mixture. The drained pasta was ready for the sauce.
Stir it constantly so it doesn't stick. Keep stirring it so it doesn't burn. Stir the mixture constantly during cooking. She stirred it constantly until it thickened. Stir it so it doesn't form lumps. The rice was soaking wet after an hour in water. My shoes were soaking wet after the storm. The towel was still soaking wet. His jacket was soaking wet from the rain. The vegetables were soaking wet after washing.
The vegetables steamed instead of browning. The rice will steam instead of toast if it's too wet. The mushrooms steamed instead of frying. The bread steamed inside the container. It will steam rather than crisp up. Shake off as much water as possible before cooking. I shook off the excess water before adding it. Shake the dirt off your boots before coming into the kitchen. She shook the ice off the dishes. Try to shake off as much water as you can.
Pour in the broth and stir. Slowly pour in the milk. Pour in the remaining water. He poured in the sauce and mixed everything together. Carefully pour in the cream. As soon as it's boiling, reduce the heat. As soon as it's boiling, cover the pot. As soon as it's boiling, start the timer. As soon as it's boiling, add the pasta. As soon as it's boiling, remove it from the heat. Drop the heat to its lowest setting. Drop the heat and let it cook slowly. I dropped the heat once the soup started bubbling. Drop the heat before the sauce thickens too much. The instructions say to drop the heat immediately. Put a tight-fitting lid on the pot. We used a tight-fitting lid to keep the steam in. The pot needs a tight-fitting lid. A tight-fitting lid helps cook the rice evenly. Make sure the lid is tight-fitting.
Don't lift the lid just yet. Resist the temptation to lift the lid. Don't lift the lid until the timer goes off. She kept reminding me not to lift the lid. If you lift the lid too soon, the rice may not cook properly. Turn off the heat entirely once it's done. I turned off the heat entirely and let it sit. Turn off the heat entirely before serving. The recipe says to turn off the heat entirely at the end. We turned off the heat entirely and let the pot alone. Leave it with the lid still on for 10 minutes. The pot sat on the stove with the lid still on. Let it rest with the lid still on. Keep the container closed with the lid still on. We left the rice untouched with the lid still on.